Welcome to the Sky Commander Flight Brief. It's your mission-ready podcast for drone pilot training and aerial insights across Canada.
From Transport Canada rules to real-world drone ops, we break it down, take you higher, and help you earn your wings. Because here at skycommander.ca, we don't just fly.
It hints there's more to it. It's a masterclass, a deeper level, maybe a philosophy or a community focus, perhaps.
It's definitely intriguing, sets them apart from just, a basic tips show. Skycommander.ca is the obvious next step. Precisely. If you're thinking about flying a drone in Canada, boom, this content is aimed right at you.
Powered by skycommander.ca.
The elite podcast for Canada's drone pilot. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's unpack this. So imagine you're out there, right? Flying your drone, everything's going smoothly, maybe getting some incredible footage.
Yeah, you're in the zone, the connection's solid, telemetry looks good.
Exactly. And then just silence. The video feed freezes up, your controls just stop responding.
Yeah.
That connection, it's just gone.
The critical moment.
Yeah, the heart-stopping moment where your drone, this really smart piece of tech, suddenly becomes this tiny autonomous object up there. It's not listening anymore.
No longer listening. That's the core of it, isn't it? The disconnect.
Precisely. And that moment and what has to happen next, that's what we're really digging into today.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take all this complex information, the sources you send us, regulations, real-world stories, all of it, and we try to boil it down, get to the critical insights, give you that shortcut to being, truly informed.
Yeah.
And today, our mission is all about drone lost link emergencies, a really crucial topic.
Absolutely. We want to make sure you know not just what they are, but exactly what you need to do when that drone connection disappears. So we've got a really fascinating stack of material here, zeroing right in on that lost link scenario.
Lots to cover.
We'll look at the official definitions, the regulatory side, but also dive into some real-world examples, how this actually plays out.
Yeah, the practical application is key. We'll touch on the history, too, how these rules came about.
Right, from sort of best practices to actual legal requirements. And some surprising facts, too, apparently.
Oh, yeah, definitely some interesting tidbits about what happens when drones go off script.
Okay, great. So think of this as your essential guide. Staying safe, staying compliant, protecting your gear, all that good stuff. So let's start at the beginning. What exactly is a lost link? It sounds simple, but I bet the official wording is a bit more involved.
You bet it is. Transport Canada, they're very precise, which is good, really. In the Canadian aviation regulations, CARS Part 9s, specifically Section 901.23, which covers emergency procedures for RPAS, that's remotely piloted aircraft systems.
RPAS.
They define a lost link as an interruption or loss of the command and control link, such that the pilot is no longer able to control the aircraft, and the aircraft no longer follows its pre-programmed procedures or operates in a predictable or planned manner.
Okay, wow, that's specific. So breaking that down into, plain English.
Yeah, the plain English version is much more intuitive. It's basically losing that brain-to-body connection.
Brain to body, I like that.
Your drone just stops listening. It's not responding to your stick inputs anymore. It's not following the flight plan you set up.
Yeah.
It's going its own way. Maybe it just keeps going straight. Maybe it hovers. Maybe it tries to return to home. But the point is, it's not doing it because you're telling it to in real time.
So it's a fundamental breakdown of control, not just a glitch, but the actual command link is severed.
Exactly. It's that complete disconnect. Like one source put it well, like your phone dropping your Bluetooth headphones mid-song.
Yeah.
You're out of sync.
Or even more dramatic, like losing your steering wheel while driving. Suddenly, you just can't direct it anymore.
That's a great analogy, too. You've lost that immediate ability to steer, climb, descend.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a huge deal.
It really is. And understanding that core definition, that brings us to some related terms, right? Things that always come up in these discussions.
Absolutely. These terms are the vocabulary of safety here. First up, contingency procedures.
Okay.
The official definition is procedures to be followed to address conditions that could lead to an unsafe situation.
Right. So in simple terms.
It's your plan B, or plan C, or D. It's what you've already figured out, written down, hopefully even practiced, for when things start to go sideways. The steps you take to keep everyone safe, people on the ground, other aircraft, even your drone if you lose that control.
Like knowing what to do if your car brakes fail. You don't just panic. You have a sequence in mind.
Precisely. Downshift, signal, look for an escape route, maybe use the e-brake. It's that pre-planned response. For a pilot, having these contingency procedures locked down changes panic into a managed response.
Right.
It builds confidence.
That makes sense. So it's proactive, not reactive. Okay, what about flyaway? That term always sounds a bit wild.
It does sound dramatic, doesn't it? And it captures that feeling of losing control. A flyaway is basically when the lost link makes the drone behave unpredictably. It's no longer under your command.
So it's not just flying off, it's flying off unpredictably.
That's the key part. It might just keep going or spiral or drift completely off course. You don't know. And it's not just theory. There's that almost legendary story. A DJI Phantom lost its link over Iceland, caught a massive tailwind.
No way.
Yeah, and months later, it washed up on a beach in Norway. The drone was wrecked, but the memory card was still intact.
Iceland to Norway. Wow, that really drives home why planning for flyaways is so important. It could literally end up anywhere.
Exactly. Unplanned adventures with potentially serious consequences.
Okay, so moving on. C2, what's that stand for?
C2 is the command and control link.
Command and control.
A good way to remember it is control and communicate to stay connected. Because it's a two-way street. It's not just you sending commands to the drone. It's also the drone sending critical info back to you. Altitude, speed, location, battery, video, all that telemetry.
Okay. So if you lose C2, you lose both steering and the dashboard.
Perfect analogy. You can't tell it what to do, and you can't see what it's doing. That two-way flow is vital.
Got it. And the last big one here, RTH, return to home. Everyone knows this one. It's often seen as the magic safety button.
So it is incredibly important. RTH is designed to bring the drone back to a preset spot automatically if things go wrong, like a lost link. It's often a lifesaver.
There's always a but, isn't there?
There is. The crucial thing to remember, maybe think of it as RTH, really tries hard. But it only works if the GPS signal is good and the battery holds out.
Okay. So it's not foolproof.
Not at all. If your GPS is wonky or the battery's about to die, RTH might fail or do something unexpected. That's why it can only be part of your plan, never the whole plan.
So relying only on RTH is setting yourself up for potential failure. And I guess Transport Canada really drills down on this GPS dependence. This isn't just advice, is it? These procedures are legally required.
Oh, absolutely. This is not optional. CARS 901.23 is the law. It's crystal clear. It mandates that before you even think about taking off, before any flight, the pilot in command must establish and review emergency procedures. And you have to review them with your whole crew, if you have one.
Before every single flight, not just once in a while.
Every single time. It has to be part of your pre-flight checklist, your briefing, no exceptions. And these procedures, they have to cover specific things. Loss of that C2 link, obviously. Flyaway scenarios, what happens if it just takes off. Flight termination, if your drone has that capability, how and when you'd actively bring it down. And also any other unsafe condition you could reasonably expect for your specific flight. Maybe your control station could fail or some other equipment breaks down. You need to have thought through these possibilities.
Wow, okay. That's comprehensive. So ignoring this isn't just bad practice, it's actually breaking the rules.
Directly breaking the rules.
Yes.
And it has real consequences if something goes wrong, or even if you just get inspected.
And accessibility matters too, right? You can't just have them filed away somewhere back at the office.
Exactly. That's a huge point. These procedures need to be immediately available during the flight. Inspectors have flagged this. They call it an obscure enforcement quirk, but the logic is sound. Immediately available means right there, right now.
Not buried 3 menus deep on your tablet or locked behind a passcode.
Right, or stuck in a binder you left in the truck. If an inspector asks to see your lost link procedure and you're fumbling around for minutes trying to find it, you're not compliant.
Because in a real emergency, you don't have minutes, you have seconds.
Precisely. Every second counts. You need that info instantly.
Okay, that makes total sense. Now, another term that keeps coming up, contingency volume. What's that all about? Sounds important.
It is incredibly important. Think of it as your pre-planned safety bubble. It's a defined 3D space around your intended flight path.
A safety bubble, okay.
Its whole purpose is to give you a safe zone. If the drone has a problem and goes off course, this is the area where you've planned for it to be able to safely hover, land, or, if necessary, terminate its flight without hitting anything or anyone.
Like bubble wrap in the sky.
That's a great way to put it. Your bubble wrap in the sky. It's the buffer zone you calculate beforehand to contain any mishap. And this is super critical when you're flying near sensitive areas, say close to controlled airspace or over a park or near buildings. Your contingency volume has to be designed so that even in a worst-case scenario, RTH fails. Strong wind pushes it. The drone stays inside that safe bubble and doesn't cross into the restricted area or endanger people.
So you have to factor in things like drift, or where it might actually end up if you cut the power.
Absolutely. You have to anticipate potential deviations and ensure your bubble is big enough and in the right place to contain them safely. It's all about proactive risk management.
That's a really powerful concept, and I heard this didn't even start with drones. It has a more cosmic origin.
It does. It's fascinating. The whole idea of a contingency volume, this defined 3D safety zone for autonomous things, actually comes from space law.
Space law, seriously.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thinking NASA uses when a satellite goes dark or starts to drift off orbit. They define a volume, a bubble, where it can drift without hitting other satellites or re-entering the atmosphere dangerously.
Wow. So when I'm planning my little drone flight's contingency volume, I'm basically using the same safety principle as NASA managing satellites.
You are. It shows you the level of rigor behind these concepts. It's come down from managing things in orbit to managing drones in our local airspace. Pretty cool, huh?
That is actually really cool. Mind blown a little bit there. Okay, let's circle back to RT's return to home. We said it's not foolproof. Let's talk about that myth versus reality. What's the big misconception?
The biggest myth, and it's a dangerous one, is simply that RTH always works. That it's this infallible safety net. Lose connection, no problem, the drone just comes back home.
Right, like it's magic.
Yeah, exactly. But the blunt reality is very different. RTH is not foolproof. It absolutely depends on having a good, stable GPS signal and that telemetry link working. If your GPS is weak, maybe you're in a canyon or between tall buildings, or if there's interference jamming the signal, or the drone just loses its lock, RTH might fail completely.
Or it might just start drifting weirdly.
It could drift unpredictably, yeah. Or it might even try to land somewhere unsafe because it doesn't really know where it is or where home is accurately. That's why you always need backups. Visual observation is key, having someone keep eyes on it, and having a plan to take manual control if possible. RTH is a tool, not a guarantee.
And Transport Canada definitely emphasizes this GPS weakness, right? They test you on this.
Well, for sure. They want to know, you understand that RTH relies on GPS and won't work in every lost link situation, especially if you lose both C2 and GPS at the same time.
What happens then if it loses both?
Well, it literally doesn't know where home is.
Yeah.
It can't perform RTH. It might just try to land right where it is or hover until the battery dies or drift. That's where having a visual observer becomes absolutely critical to track it and manage the situation. And it's not just about if RTH works, but how it works. You have to plan the RTH altitude carefully.
Not just use the default setting out of the box.
Definitely not. You need to set that altitude specifically for your mission area. High enough to clear trees, buildings, hills, but not so high that it busts into controlled airspace or known traffic corridors, like helicopter routes.
Ah, right, because RTH often involves climbing first.
Exactly. A set-it-and-forget-it altitude from the factory could easily fly your drone straight into a hillside in bumpy terrain or up into airspace you're not cleared for. It has to be part of your specific site survey and pre-flight planning.
It really sounds like these rules have evolved quite a bit. It wasn't always this structured, was it? How did we get here? What's the backstory?
That's a great question, and understanding the history really helps explain why things are the way they are now. It definitely wasn't always like this. If you go back before June 2019, we were kind of in the model aircraft era for most drones.
Model aircraft, okay.
Basically, they were treated like sophisticated hobby planes. And critically, there was no formal legal requirement to have documented loss link procedures. It was more about common sense, maybe some manufacturer guidance. Terms like flyaway or contingency volume weren't defined in the regulations. If something went wrong, enforcement was usually reactive after an incident happened. There wasn't this strong, proactive planning framework.
So a bit like the Wild West, maybe. And then came 2019, the revolution, as you called it earlier.
Yeah, June 1st, 2019 was a huge shift. That's when Part IX of CARS kicked in, creating a proper regulatory system just for RPAS. And with that came CARS 901.23, mandating those emergency procedures we've been talking about. Suddenly, planning for lost links, flyaways, termination, it became a legal obligation before every flight.
A massive change.
Huge. But even then, the specific definitions for terms like contingency volume weren't actually in the regulations yet. They were in guidance material, but not law.
Ah, so there was still some gray area, room for interpretation.
Exactly. Pilots, companies, even inspectors sometimes had different ideas about what exactly these things meant, which led to inconsistencies.
Which then led to the standardization push between 2019 and 2024, trying to clear up that confusion.
Precisely. Transport Canada started putting out more detailed guidance, like advisory circulars, trying to clarify expectations. They worked with manufacturers to get more standard default behaviors for lost links, RTH, hover, land, and the rise of BVLOS beyond visual line of sight operations really pushed this need for super precise contingency planning. When you can't see the drone, your emergency plan has to be rock solid.
Makes sense.
And during this time, inspectors often found that operators were just cutting and pasting the manufacturer's generic manual sections into their own procedures without really thinking about their specific flight risks. That wasn't good enough.
Which brings us pretty much up to date with the 2025 amendments. What did they finalize?
This was the big one for definitions.
Yeah.
SOR 2025-70, effective March 26, 2025. It put legally precise definitions for contingency procedures, contingency volume, and fly away right into the main definitions section of the regulations, CARS 900.01.
Okay, so no more gray areas on those terms.
Exactly. It makes it much clearer for everyone. Pilots know exactly what's expected. Inspectors can verify compliance consistently. It removes that ambiguity. And importantly, it aligns Canada more closely with international standards from ICO, the FAA in the US, EASA in Europe. We're all using the same precise language now.
So as of March 2025, the sky got a little more defined. Your emergency bubble is now officially mapped out in the rule book.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's a clear progression towards safer, more standardized operations globally.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical. Theory and definitions are one thing, but how does this actually work when you're out there flying? Let's walk through some of these real-world scenarios from our sources, because applying this stuff correctly is everything right.
Absolutely. This is about taking those rules and turning them into smart actions when things go wrong. Let's look at a few key categories. First up, airspace awareness and notification. This is huge for both VLS and BVLOS. The core principle: if your drone drifts towards or into controlled airspace class C, D, E, or even an uncontrolled airport's mandatory frequency, MF, or airdrome traffic frequency, ATF area, you have to notify ATC immediately, or broadcast on the frequency if it's uncontrolled.
Even if your original plan kept it clear, like if wind pushes it.
Yes, even then. Because the situation has changed, the risk profile is different, you have to react to the reality, not just the plan. Okay, scenario 1. BVLOS near Class C. You're flying a powerline patrol, BVLOS under an SFOC. Your flight path is close to Class C, but your contingency volume has a half-mile buffer.
Sounds like good planning.
It is. But then you lose the C2 link. Your drone starts its RTH sequence, but a sudden strong crosswind starts pushing it right towards that Class C boundary.
Uh-oh. The plan didn't account for that strong wind.
Exactly. So your procedure says monitor drift, try to regain link, maybe have a visual observer try to spot it. But the absolute first action is notify ATC immediately.
Why immediately? It hasn't entered yet.
Because it could enter within minutes due to that wind. ATC needs to know about the potential hazard to manned aircraft right away. And if RTH is clearly going to cause it to enter or fails to correct, you might need to activate flight termination before it crosses that boundary while it's still inside your contingency volume.
So the dynamic situation, the wind, overrides the static plan and triggers immediate notification and potential termination.
Precisely. It tests your real-time risk assessment and communication duties.
Okay, what about near smaller airports without a control tower? Those MF-ATF zones?
Good question. Communication is still vital. Scenario 2. Fly away towards an aerodrome. You're flying VLOS near a rural airport in Class G, but it has an MF zone. You lose the link, and the drone just starts flying straight towards the runway.
Okay, that's bad.
Very bad. First, try to regain the link, always. But if that fails, or it keeps heading for the runway, you must broadcast immediately on that mandatory frequency.
To warn other planes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Telling any pilots in the area you have an uncontrolled drone heading their way. And again, is possible and safe, trigger flight termination before it actually enters the airport's active area. This shows, your communication duties, even in uncontrolled airspace with an MF zone.
And we need to think vertically too, right? Not just side to side.
Absolutely crucial. Scenario 3. High altitude flight near Class E. You're doing mapping at, say, 120 meters above ground in Class G, but Class E controlled airspace starts at 200 meters above ground right there.
Okay.
You lose link. Your drone's RTH altitude is programmed to maybe 200 or 210 meters to clear obstacles on the way home, so it automatically climbs.
Right into Class E airspace without clearance.
Bingo. The mistake happened during pre-flight. You should have checked the vertical airspace limits for that specific spot and set your RTH altitude to stay below 200 meters.
So pre-flight planning is key again. Check vertical limits.
Always. And if it does happen, you try to regain control and stop the climb. If not, it's an airspace incursion and you have to notify ATC. It really tests that 3D thinking.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Talk about failsafe mode selection and environmental factors. Just choosing hover as your failsafe isn't always the best idea, is it?
Definitely not. Hover can be really problematic. Scenario 1 for failsafe, the construction site hover trap. You're flying over a busy downtown construction site, maybe inspecting a crane, lose link. Failsafe is set to hover.
So it just stops there.
It stops there. Problem is, it might be hovering right over a busy sidewalk full of people. And the battery's ticking down. It's become a hazard just hanging there.
Right. So what's the right action?
Confirm the link is actually lost. Try to reconnect quickly. If not, your procedure needs a better option than just hover. Either trigger land into a pre-identified safe clear zone within your contingency volume, or maybe even flight termination if there's absolutely nowhere safe to land.
And your visual observer should be trying to clear people away underneath.
Absolutely. And post-flight. You need to analyze why hover was unsafe there and probably change your standard procedure for urban ops to land or RTH. Hovering over people is just too risky.
That makes total sense. Any other examples where a hover is a bad idea?
Oh, yeah. Remember that Statue of Liberty incident? An early drone case where a lost link drone just hovered next to the statue until its battery died and it fell into the water. Huge incident. Hovering in sensitive, high-profile locations is a non-starter. Or consider high wind drift in hover mode. Rooftop inspection, lost link, drone hovers. A strong wind gust pushes it sideways into the building next door.
Because it's just sitting there getting blown around.
Exactly. In windy conditions near obstacles, hover is often unsafe. Your pre-plan should have been land or RTH. And even invisible things matter. Thermal uplift drift. Flying over a hot solar farm, lose link, drone hovers. But the rising hot air, the thermals, push it higher and off course.
Wow, didn't think of that.
Yeah, hover isn't stable in strong thermals. You might need to program land or RTH instead in those conditions. You have to consider all environmental factors.
And weather itself can mess with the signal, right? Not just the drone's position.
For sure. Heavy rain, high humidity, even ice forming on antennas in winter. They can all weaken the RF signal so much it acts like a lost link, even if the equipment is fine. There was a Canadian case where ice on the antenna cut the range from kilometers down to just a few hundred meters. You've got to factor in weather's impact on the signal itself.
Okay, what about actual equipment failures and redundancy, things breaking on the drone itself?
Right, distinct from environment or pilot error. Scenario 1 for equipment. GPS degradation during RTH. You trigger RTH, but the GPS signal gets flaky. The drone starts wandering because it can't figure out its position accurately.
So RTH becomes unreliable.
Totally. Your action. Track it visually, try to reconnect, and if that fails, abort the RTH and manually land it somewhere safe within your contingency volume. It shows RTH needs good GPS. Or worse, scenario 2. GPS failure during lost link. You lose both C2 and GPS at the same time. Maybe jamming, maybe hardware failure.
So RTH is impossible now.
Impossible. Doesn't know where it is or where home is. The drone might just try to land on the spot. You confirm visually. If it's landing in a safe field, okay. If it's landing on a road or new people, you need your VO guiding recovery if link returns briefly, or you have to terminate if there's no other choice.
What about those more complex setups with backup communication links?
Good point. Scenario 3. Dual link partial failure. You have a primary RF link and a backup cellular link. The RF drops, but the cellular link kicks in.
So you still have control, not a full lost link.
Technically not a full loss of C2 because you still have the cellular link. But you must treat it as degraded C2. Document it. Assess the risk. Is the cellular link laggy? Is the mission critical? Decide whether to continue or bring it back. And be ready for the backup to fail too.
So partial failure still requires a specific contingency response.
Definitely. It tests your understanding of redundancy and degraded states. And don't forget, scenario 4, firmware glitches. You skip an update, fly a mission, lose link. And because of a bug in the old firmware, the drone ignores RTH and just hovers until the battery dies and it falls out of the sky.
Ouch, preventable.
Totally preventable. The action is simple. Fly with current, tested, stable firmware, and know how your specific drone behaves with fail-safes and low battery, according to that firmware version. Not knowing is a huge gap.
It really seems like pilot error and pre-flight planning cause a lot of these issues.
They're often the root cause, sadly, but also the most controllable factor. Consider scenario 1 pilot error. Forgotten antenna. Taking off, lose link almost immediately because you forgot to raise the directional antenna on your controller. Oh man, easily done.
Easily done. Drone defaults to RTH, starts climbing, right into a 100-meter helicopter corridor you knew was there because your RTH was set to 120 meters.
So the error was twofold. Forgetting the antenna and not setting the RTH altitude properly for this specific site.
Exactly. Immediate action. Fix the antenna, try to reconnect, stop the climb. Pre-flight action. Set RTH altitude below known hazards for that location. Or scenario 2, home point issues. You swap batteries mid-mission but forget to check or reset the home point. Later, lose link, RTH kicks in.
And it tries to fly back to where you started hours ago, maybe across town.
Precisely. Potentially flying through dangerous areas or restricted airspace. The action, always confirm your home point after battery swaps or restarts. Make it part of your checklist.
What about how fast the system even realizes the link is lost?
That's scenario 3. Delayed link detection. Maybe you're flying a fixed wing on a long autonomous run. You get signal dropouts, but the system waits 45 seconds before declaring a lost link. By then, the drone could be way off course. So you need to configure that detection threshold appropriately.
If your system allows it, yes. A shorter threshold means quicker reaction, less drift outside your planned area. You're responsible for understanding and setting that parameter.
And smart features can sometimes interfere, right? Like obstacle avoidance.
Yes, that's scenario 4. Autonomy confusion. Lost link happens during an autonomous flight with obstacle avoidance on. Instead of just executing RTH, the sensors make it pause or drift strangely, maybe trying to avoid a phantom obstacle, overriding the failsafe command.
So the smarts get in the way of the emergency procedure.
They can. You need to know exactly how your drone's autonomous features interact with failsafes. You might even need to disable certain features during parts of the flight if they could interfere with a critical emergency response like RTH or landing. And one more for pilot error. Scenario 5, mid-transfer between control stations, handing off control from one ground station to another mid-flight. A timing glitch means both stations briefly lose the link. Drone defaults to land in place, right over a busy road.
Nightmare scenario.
Truly. Pre-flight. The handover procedure needs a safe altitude and location baked in. During the event, try to recover link. VO clears the road if possible, maybe terminate. Post-flight. Revise the procedure to ensure continuous control, or a safer default during handovers.
These examples cover so much. Are there any other really specific hazards tied to unique environments that need special lost link planning?
Oh, definitely. Transport Canada loves testing these because they often combine rules, like Scenario 1 hazard, maritime mapping, flying over a harbor, lose link. RTH path goes right over anchored boats with people on them.
Risk of hitting a mast or someone on deck.
Exactly. Try to reconnect. VO monitors closely. If risk increases, execute your alternate plan. Ditch the drone safely in a pre-identified clear water zone, away from boats, even if it means losing the drone. Protecting people comes first. Or Scenario 2, wildlife hazard. Flying near a bird sanctuary, lose link, drone hovers. A flock of birds, maybe aggressive raptors, start circling it.
Because it looks like prey or a threat just hanging there?
Yep. Hover is unsafe around wildlife. Your procedure should be immediate descent landing or termination to avoid collision or harassment. Raptors attacking drones is a real thing.
Wow. Okay, what about borders?
Scenario 3, cross-border flyaway. Fly near the U.S. border, lose link, wind pushes it towards the U.S.
International incident waiting to happen.
Big time. Immediate notification to ATC and AV Canada is required so they can alert U.S. counterparts. And if you can, terminate flight before it crosses the border. It shows you understand airspace sovereignty. Another common one is Scenario 4, antenna shadowing. Flying off a ship, the drone goes behind the ship's superstructure, blocking the signal from your controller. Link lost.
Physical obstruction.
Exactly. Plan flight paths to avoid those shadow zones. Maybe use an external antenna mounted higher up.
And the sun. Can the sun really cause a lost link?
It can. Scenario 5, solar interference. Flying directly into strong sunlight, especially low sun angles. The intense light can overload receiver dishes or optical sensors, causing temporary signal loss or confusion.
So plan headings to avoid staring into the sun for long periods.
Pretty much, yeah. It's another environmental factor beyond just RF interference that you need to be aware of.
Man, there are so many layers to this. It's complex. What are the common traps people fall into? The gotchas that Transport Canada might use in an exam or an audit?
Yeah, they definitely test beyond just memorizing definitions. They want to see critical thinking. We've hit some already, but the big misconceptions are worth repeating. Believing RTH always works. It doesn't. It needs GPS. Have backups. Thinking emergency procedures are optional only for BVLOS? Nope. Mandatory for all flights before takeoff under 901.23. Believing procedures can be reviewed after takeoff or kept back at base? Wrong. Reviewed before flight with crew and immediately available during flight. And the passive approach, just hope the link comes back? No. You need a defined, practiced plan of action.
Okay, so those are the common misunderstandings. What about the more subtle traps, the obscure angles TC likes?
Right. They test deeper understanding, the predictable behavior requirement. It's not enough to have procedures. You need to know your drone will actually follow them predictably. Do you know its real default settings? Have you tested them? If not, your procedures might not match reality. The contingency volume definition, post-2025, they'll test you on that new, precise legal definition and what it means for keeping clear of boundaries like controlled airspace or built-up areas, even during failures. Prompt notification to ATC. They stress this. Even if you think it might stay clear, if your contingency volume touches controlled airspace or an MFATF zone, you notify immediately upon losing the link. Don't wait and see. For advanced ops, they might ask about proof of lost link test flights. Have you actually verified your drone behaves as expected? Document it. Flight termination authority. Who pushes the button? How? Does it work under pressure? Know this cold if your drone has it. Understanding degraded C2 and dual link ops. Losing one link isn't total loss, but still requires a specific contingency for that partial failure. And finally, the post-event obligation. After any lost link incident, even if nothing bad happened, you're expected to review, learn, and update your procedures before flying again. Show continuous improvement.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to absorb, but incredibly important. We've covered definitions, rules, history, real-world nightmares. Are there any just plain interesting facts or maybe some memory aids to help all this stick?
Absolutely. Connecting it to broader ideas or using mnemonics can really help. Here's a cool fact. The term lost link wasn't invented for drones. It comes from manned aviation and spaceflight. NASA used it for Apollo missions when the command module went behind the moon and lost contact with Earth. It highlights that it's about a two-way communication path breaking down.
From the moon to my local park. Amazing.
Right. And speaking of amazing journeys, remember that Iceland to Norway drone flyaway shows the extreme potential and why containment planning is vital. Think about military drones as RTH. Predators, Reapers, they have multiple satellite links, sophisticated dead reckoning navigation. They can find their way home from halfway across the world, even without GPS or a control link. Civilian RTH is basic by comparison, reinforcing why your planning and vigilance are so critical.
We're the intelligent backup for our simpler systems.
Exactly. And don't forget the Statue of Liberty hover incident, a stark reminder why hover is often a poor fail-safe choice in busy or sensitive areas.
And the birds attacking drones, especially hovering ones, a real hazard to factor in near wildlife areas.
Yep, and that weather can cause phantom lost links due to signal attenuation. It's not always equipment failure or distance. And finally, that Canada's 2025 contingency volume definition has roots in space law for satellite collision avoidance. Gives you a sense of the serious thought behind these drone rules.
Those are great context points. What about simple ways to remember the key concepts or actions?
Okay, memory aids. For C2, remember control and communicate. Lose it, you lose steering and dashboard. For RTH, think really tries hard, but needs GPS and battery. For contingency volume, your bubble wrap in the sky, defined before flight. And for action sequences, the LCCN mnemonic for immediate response. L, lost link. Identify it's happened. C, contingency procedure. Start RTH, or your planned action. C, contingency volume. Keep it within the safe zone. N, notify ATC. If near controlled airspace, MFATF. And for after the event, the LAST mnemonic. L, locate visually. Keep eyes on it if possible. A, activate contingency. Execute your RTH, land, terminate, etc. S, secure airspace. Make those ATC frequency calls. T, track and log. Document everything for review and improvement.
LCCN for the moment, LAST for the follow-up.
Excellent. Okay, so boiling it all down one last time, what are the absolute must-know takeaways from this deep dive?
All right, the non-negotiables. 1, emergency procedures are legally required. Carzano 1.23 for every flight, period. 2, loss of C2 link needs a documented plan covering contingency, flyaway, and termination. 3, your contingency volume is your defined safety bubble. Plan it carefully. 4, RTH is not foolproof. Always have visual and manual backups. 5, definitions were updated March 26, 2025. Know the precise meaning of contingency volume, etc. 6, always notify ATC if there's any risk of entering controlled airspace or an MFATF area, early and often.
Fantastic summary. We have really dug deep into drone lost link emergencies today. We've unpacked the crucial definitions, traced how the regulations have evolved, and importantly, explored how these rules apply in messy, complex, real-world flying. Hopefully, everyone listening understands much better now why this planning isn't just recommended, it's legally essential, and how concepts like contingency volume are vital safety tools. And remember, this isn't just about ticking boxes for compliance or passing an exam. am. It's fundamentally about making our shared skies safer for everyone. So here's a final thought to take away, something to really chew on based on everything we've covered. Imagine you get a job inspecting a utility corridor right near a major city's downtown. Tall buildings everywhere, people on the streets below, complex controlled airspace overhead. How would you design your specific loss link contingency plan for that environment? How would you account for the vertical challenges, potential signal blocking from buildings, the need for rapid ATC notification, and the absolute necessity of preventing your drone from hovering or landing unsafely over people or traffic?
Thinking through that specific scenario, applying these principles diligently, that's what makes a truly prepared and professional drone pilot, being ready for what the sky might throw at you.
Couldn't agree more. We really hope this deep dive has provided clarity and practical insights into this critical area of drone operations. As always, stay curious, stay informed, and fly smart. That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.